We're back. Hello, everybody, all of the internet. Welcome back to another episode of the Best of 5. My name is Ilan.
Over.
What?
Music's over.
Music is over.
Music is over. I'm sorry.
Welcome to another episode of Best of 5 where the music ended. My name is Ilan. And I am here joined by, of course, the main squeeze, the Steve Ace King Offsuit Jerk.
What? How's everybody doing? I messed up my tribute.
Were you going to say, how's everybody going?
I was going to say, how's everybody going? Like, I had one job. One job.
Well, Steve, here, let's retake that. Go ahead. Good evening. Welcome to another episode of Best of 5. It's Thursday. My name is Ilan, and I'm here joined with the main squeeze, the Ace King Offsuit Jerk. Steve, how's it going?
We screwed it up again!
I set you up for it.
I can't respond to how's it going with how's everybody going.
Anyway, we're an FGC podcast.
Do it again. Do it again.
All right. Okay. Welcome to another episode of Best of 5. This is Steve.
How's everybody going? What is wrong with me?
All right, well, hey, we got it. That's one in the can. Put that one on the YouTube. The resub by the main squeeze, a skiing offsuit jerk. Thanks, Steve. Subscribe for 53 months. Surprisingly enough, not the longest you can be subscribed to the show.
That will gnaw at me forever.
It will. So Steve, we're going to talk about the ridiculous amount of Street Fighter 6 information that we got this week.
The hits just keep coming.
We're going to talk about Guilty Gear Strive's update now that it's out into the world.
And see if your thoughts changed.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe they have.
We're going to talk Rumbleverse because I had a blast playing that game all weekend long. I even beat the crap out of Tuboware. Yeah, apparently.
He is still a little salty about that.
Is he?
He admits that he got beat by the better player, but he wants the run back.
Oh, well, we're going to get that run back in July. And we're going to talk about everything else that's on the docket here via the quick hits. We're also going to have a block grab today, so that'll be fun. I'm going to try something a little different with the block grab. Let's see how that goes. So, Steve, before we get started, we have a couple of announcements, a couple of housekeeping to do here. You know how at the end of the show we're always like, oh, you could type Best of V show on Twitter, on Twitch, on YouTube, on podcast, on Discord. Well, you can't do that on Discord. We don't have that yet. But we always list off the laundry list of social stuff. Well, I'm here to say that, Steve, we have our very own website now. Well, kind of. If you go to bestofvshow.com, I got the .com, Steve. bestofvshow.com. All right. Yeah, so bestofvshow.com, type that into your web browsers, and it'll take you to all of our socials and all of our podcast links, all in one convenient place so you can follow everything. With that said, Steve, I got a hold of some analytics, and there are some very disturbing stats out there.
Uh-oh.
Steve, 58% of people who watch our videos on YouTube are not subscribed to our YouTube. That's a big no-no, Steve. So, here's the sitch. We're about 900 follows away from getting monetization access on our YouTube. We're about 900 follows and about 3,000 watch hours away. So, help us get to that goal, will you? And we'll have a big old party. Did I just hold on. What did I just do? But yeah, go to youtube.com/Best of V Show, and you too can help us in our goals of trying to get better stuff up there. Steve, I'm trying to mod you on the channel. I don't know if it's working or not, so I'm just gonna.
It's working now.
So there's that, and we have a new email address along with our new fancy stuff. You can write to us by emailing bov@bestofvshow.com, and we'll get it. So hit us up on email. Tell us, say hi, right? Help us test out this new email. I'm sure it works, but you never know. And let us know what you want us to know, right? You can email us anything as long as it's not terrible. But yeah, so them's the news. bestofvshow.com, bov@bestofvshow.com, YouTube.com/bestofvshow.com. We're trying to get to 1,000 subscribers so we can get some cool stuff up in there. We get all the fancy YouTube, the fancy YouTube access when we do that. So help us get there. We're about like 800 away. And we're about like 100 away from 1,500 on Twitter too. So follow us on Twitter, will you?
And all of those who do follow us, we do appreciate you. We thank you. Everyone who is somewhat entertained by us, or at least pretends to be entertained by us, we're not picking. But we thank you for letting us be a part of your week, and hopefully we can continue to put on a show that you enjoy.
Yeah, no, and big ups to the Ultra Chen TV crew for an amazing run. Much love to them. I was saying earlier, like, I watched the show and it was hard not to tear up and think of all the great times. But yeah, here we are.
Yeah. On that note, if you weren't here Tuesday, I did re-air a few of the old interviews we had done with James and David as in the build-up to the final episode. And it was a lot of fun. It was actually pretty interesting to see some of the older takes and how they've evolved. So if that's something you'd like to see again, let us know.
Send us that email.
With the email, let us know in our Discord.
Twitter?
On Twitter?
Anywhere.
Yeah.
Literally anywhere. Please talk to us.
Run up to me on the street and say, "Show me the old Smug interviews." Please don't do that specifically, but...
Yeah, that sounds like a bad idea. Anyway, Steve, we've been babbling on about stuff for about 16 minutes now. So, I think it's time. Steve, are you ready?
Let's do it.
It's time for... And I hope everybody in chat starts spamming the emote because it's free if you follow. It's time for our weekly recap.
All right, this week we only had one Pro Tour event. It was Maesuma Top number 8, a gold event on the Smash World Tour on the Ultimate side of things. And that took place in Japan, so it was an all-Japan Top 16. Yoshidara getting the win over Hero in the Grand Final. Mietono and Masa rounding out the top 4 there. If you're a fan of Street Fighter, you've got a couple of events to look forward to this weekend. If you like New School, you like Street Fighter V, you've got the Topanga Championship to look forward to. The finals of that event, 7-person round robin, taking place over 3 days, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. All of those starting at 5 a.m. Eastern, 2 a.m. Pacific. If you're into old school, you want to see some Third Strike action, this is the weekend, because this is when you'll see the Jazzy finale, the championship event of the Jazzy Circuit, the community-run Street Fighter 3 Third Strike event. Team tournament on Friday, last chance qualifier on Saturday, all leading up to the 16-person championship event on Sunday. And that will all be on NYC Furby's channel. And that's your recap.
Oh no. There. Sorry, I built in a fade, and I forgot to actually change the thing. Anyway, thank you for that recap, Steve. Always great to hear all of the happenings, past and future, but never the present, because we're getting into the present now. Let's talk about this. Steve.
Man,
there has been so much new stuff this past week. For those of you that don't know, the devs of Street Fighter invited the Illuminati, the big people, over to their offices, as well as I believe they had a booth over at Anime Expo. I could be wrong about that. Or not Anime Expo. Something in the Summer Game Fest. There we go.
Yes.
The Summer Game Fest over in Orlando. And lo and behold, a playable version of Street Fighter 6 was there. It was a build that had the 4 characters announced. It was Chun-Li, Ryu, Jamie. Not Jamie Oliver, but Jamie. Just Jamie. And Luke. Luke Paul. And we have got
Ben Askren confirmed for DLC later.
Oh boy. And man, wouldn't you know it, Steve? There has been so much information. A lot of oh no. I apologize. Anyway, I'm going to show some of Max's footage here, because that's where I saw a lot of this shenanigans. It restarted. There we go. So here's what the game looks like. And sure enough, it's a lot faster than what it looked like in the trailers. And you know, in the trailers they do like to slow stuff down so we get to see them a little bit better. So here we are. This is Street Fighter 6. Welcome to the future. Some of the things we've seen that I think were not explained much at all is there is now a state called Punish Counter, right? Which is, from what I've seen, kind of like a counter hit, but slightly different. There it is right there. We've seen that the drive gauge is not only your gateway into doing quite literally anything in Street Fighter 6, but it is also your guard meter. If you notice, anytime you block something, your drive gauge goes away. And Steve, do you remember how last week I was saying that in order for this game to make sense, the offense is going to have to be as nutty as the defense, right? Because we have a lot of defensive mechanics, and we have a couple of offensive mechanics. And lo and behold, Steve, the offense in this game is nutty. There's a lot of ways to get around just about anything. There's a lot of ways for you to absolutely get completely wrecked when you make the wrong decision. We've seen the wall splats. We've seen the stuns, how they work. The stun only works if you get wall splat, and you can only do a wall splat with a drive impact. Look at all this crazy pairing, Steve. Uh-oh. And there's the drive impact right there. So if you hit a counter hit with your drive impact, you will not get that animation. You will only get that animation and that slowdown unless your opponent is also doing a drive impact. So this is kind of meant to be just a big ol' risk-reward shenanigans. It's gamble it. You got to know when to hold them and when to fold them, right?
Are we really busting out Kenny Rogers references tonight?
She came from somewhere back in the long ago, Steve.
Oh my goodness.
But yeah, and you know what? I think this game looks great. It looks crazy. Much like Street Fighter V as well, you have to spend meter to get invincible reversals. You have all of your supers, all of the crazy shenanigans. I think this game's going to be a ton of fun just because there's so much at play. Look at that parried super.
Of course, it's going to look different once you get it in the hands of tournament players who have a chance to actually sit down for extended periods of time and, you know, really dive into what works and what doesn't. So it It looks promising as of right now. This is still a game very much in development, and it's still a game that we don't know. Relatively speaking, we don't know a lot about it. So, I I would not like if you're happy with how things look right now, I would be very happy about that. I would just be wary of saying that this is going to be absolutely perfect out the gate.
Oh yeah, this is like day negative like 365, right? Because this game doesn't come out until 2023. Also, look at this Jamie shenanigans. He's got level 4 drink drunk, and he just lets his hair out. See, now here's the thing. Ryu did all that, but now he has to be careful, right? Because he's in that burnout state. Something that was pointed out, every time somebody gets into a burnout state, their stance changes. And Steve, do you know what their stance changes to?
It looks like I've seen the block animations. They are very, very. They look like a lot more ragged. You know, normally like there's one where Chun-Li, her normal block is just here. When she's blocking in Burnout, she's just like this, like just covering up for her life.
Do you know where that's from, Steve? Even their neutral animations, they're the old vanilla Street Fighter 2 poses. Ryu has a slightly different one. I think his pose is from like a weird version of like a beta version of Street Fighter 4. But yeah, most of these characters' poses when they're in burnout state are poses seen in their older games. Mostly Street Fighter 2, I think, is what we've seen so far.
There seems to be a lot of callbacks to previous Street Fighters, at least out of what we've seen. You know, between the poses, like you mentioned, the movesets, the fact that the super and a lot of the special moves appear to be pulling from a combination of Street Fighter 3 and 4 and 5. And Super Turbo, even this very much feels like a love letter to Street Fighter, at least thus far.
Yeah, it's almost like they thought this one out. And you know, it's funny. I was talking with somebody about like even the editing in the announcement trailer, right, that we got a couple weeks ago, compared to the trailer that we got for Street Fighter 5, is like you can tell they were like, okay, we screwed it up last time. Let's make sure we don't screw it up now, and let's actually put some thought into it. I can't begin to tell you how well edited the Street Fighter 6 announcement trailer is. If you go back and watch it, every little thing that happens is on beat with the music. It's crazy. It's unbelievable. Like, and that stuff is not easy to do. Set professional editor here. Yeah. So
I want to push back a little bit on the idea that 5 wasn't, or like the promotion for 5 wasn't thought out. At least for the reason that it's very apparent now that Street Fighter 5 had to get launched on a particular date, most likely at the request of Sony, since they were the ones financing the production of that game. Whereas Street Fighter 6 is very much Capcom able to set the pace, and keep in mind that the rollout of this is likely a year delayed from where they were originally planning because of everything that happened with COVID. So it may not be a case of them not caring with 5, but them having a bit more time to polish and really nail the details early with 6.
Sure. Yeah, that makes sense. Though I will say, after rewatching the Street Fighter 5 trailer, where it's gameplay with like generic, nondescript music in the background, and then watching 6, where it's original music, specifically edited to the music, with a lot more intention, right? Yeah, it's like Street Fighter 5 was a rush job. And at the end of the day, if they had like an extra year, I think we would have all been much happier with the game. But here we are.
It's going to remain one of the great what ifs if this was what Street Fighter 5 was at launch.
Mm-hmm.
Like the momentum and frankly the positivity around this game is something that is just blown me away, especially considering what Capcom had done with the previous fighting game launches that they've had. A real nice change of pace.
Yeah, and it's interesting. I was looking at a couple of content creators who aren't necessarily in our end of things, right? Who aren't in like competitive fighting games. They're just like, oh, I've played Street Fighter before, and the general consensus is like, oh, this looks cool. I want to try it, right? As opposed to like, I think I remember seeing a couple of reactions from Street Fighter 5 where it's just like, oh, great, another Street Fighter, right? I feel like that's how a lot of people outside of our sphere think. It's like, oh, it's just another Street Fighter game. But with this one, like, the reception has been a lot different in a very positive light. With that said, go ahead.
There's a long time. There's a long time between now and when it launches. Yep. Hopefully this momentum can continue, but we will see.
Speaking of momentum, this happened as well. I could have set that up better, but you know what? We'll just enjoy this.
We'll forgive you.
You won't know
Now,
what hit you.
Did we talk about this last week? I don't remember. We tried to cover too much last week.
Yeah, we kind of rushed through this.
Yeah,
we did. Yeah, we covered the Guile trailer, but we got a little bit more info on Guile this past week.
Yep. Okay, yeah, since we've seen this, let's go ahead and skip it. Now, I have to address the elephant in the room. Capcom saw our episode where I called out the correct date that they were showing stuff. And after the leaks, they decided to change the date. So I was still right. They were going to reveal Guile at CEO instead of 10 days before. And, you know, honestly, though, like 10 days is like, it's a pretty good window, I'd say. So good job, me. And good job on all the sleuthing. You guys didn't believe me.
Patting yourself on the back so hard, we should call you Barry Horowitz.
I don't know who that is.
No one knows who Barry Horowitz is.
You're not wrong about
Except
that.
for like one person in chat who watched early 90s WWF. So
Now,
if you are that one person, shout outs to you.
Now, Steve, we got a little bit more information about Guile via a Capcom TV broadcast late into the night here in the US. I feel like it wasn't really announced because I didn't hear about it until other people started talking about it, right? And we got to learn a couple things about Guile that has sparked some controversial discussions, if you will. The first thing we saw was this. Anti-air Sonic Hurricane. Let's watch it again. He needs it, Steve.
I don't mind it. I don't mind it.
I'm super curious to see how that goes. I'm like, honestly, like I cannot wait to see how that goes. And
like, how many bars was it?
For the Sonic Hurricane, I think it was just one, right? Let's check. Yeah, just one. Right? Yeah, just one.
If you're spending a bar for an anti-air, I don't mind that.
Yeah, and that's the super bar, so it's not even the drive gauge bar, right? Yeah. Now, here's the thing. From what I've seen how the regular Sonic Hurricane behaves, I think if you hit someone with that air Sonic Hurricane, you're going to be able to get a decent combo off of it later. Like, you're going to be able to combo out of it. We'll see. We'll see. I think that's going to be the situation. It might be a corner-only situation. It might not be. Who knows? But I think that's a thing that's going to happen. Steve, this next thing is what sparked some outrage. A lot of outrage, if you will. Let's take a look. You see this, Steve?
Yeah. That didn't work. But that does. What's the difference?
Adjust frame. Shut up. Adjust frame. Sonic Boom.
What?
So if you do a just frame, perfect, if you will, Sonic Boom comes out, or it travels faster, and you have more combo potential with it. If you don't do a just frame Sonic Boom, it comes out a little bit slower, and you don't get the combo potential, but you still get a Sonic Boom. And there has been a lot of people giving their opinions about whether having just like this type of execution on a simple move, if that's good or bad. Like Twitter's been ablaze about it. What do you think, Steve?
The idea of just frame moves is it obviously not unique.
Mm-hmm.
It is sort of, I don't know. Like, we've never seen this with Guile before. Obviously he's had access to faster booms with EX. But the idea that, I'm assuming that this is only something you can do through classic controller.
I have no idea.
Setup. I would assume so.
Mm-hmm.
Because there are some moves, this is confirmed, there are some moves that you don't have access to when you use classic control or modern control versus classic. So I would assume this would be one of them. I feel like it's not the design choice I would make, but I don't think it's an invalid design choice. If that makes any sense.
It do. Squidly in the chat says that there's another thing he had that was some kind of trap. What you talking about? I don't think I saw that one. But it's funny. As a Karen player in Street Fighter V, we do have just frame Tenko that we have to do, right? And it's almost the same thing, right? Where you get more combo, you get more ability to combo. It does I think it does a little bit more damage. I'm not 100% sure. I don't think my voice has ever gone that high before. But honestly, I find it so weird because a lot of people were saying, oh, the games feel like they're too easy. It doesn't feel complex. Execution is dead. And now, and according to Crimson Wanderer, they say, that you can do perfect booms with modern controls. I guess we won't know until we get our hands on the game. Although I would assume it is, because if they're gonna highlight that much of a thing, if they're gonna highlight that in that way, I think it's gotta be something. And we did get another product of having all of the gameplay available to us, is that we learned how modern controls work with charge characters, Steve. Chun-Li is a charge character still. Apparently, all you have to do is you just charge back. You just charge back or down, and then you press the button. And then whenever the charge time is up, and you press the button, it happens. The move happens.
Okay.
So you still have to charge.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yes. No walk forward flash kicks.
Was it Street Fighter Volt where you got to do that?
I know there was.
It was either Volt or
the 3DS
or the DS game.
Yeah,
okay.
The DS. Yeah, it was the DS where there were like one button moves. But yeah. So that all was happening. I find the discussion around the perfect Sonic Boom so interesting because people were so pissed at. Oh, they showed it on the Capcom show. Okay, cool, awesome. Thank you, Crimson. I just find it so interesting that a lot of people were pissed that execution's no longer a thing, and now that they're showing it like, oh, you need to have some execution again, people are getting pissed, right? I just find that discussion so interesting. I'm for it, honestly, right? Like, you still get a Sonic Boom even if it's not frame perfect. Yeah, you don't get like the full combo or whatever, but you know, and I think that'll make tournaments a little more exciting, right? Get a big confirm in the corner and you miss the Sonic Boom, have to what's it called? Adjust on the fly. I think that'll be fun to watch.
Do we know how wide that window is?
No.
For the perfect boom? Is it 1 frame or is it 3 frames?
I have no idea. What I do know is perfect parries are a 3-frame window. If we're to go by that, then it'll probably be 3 frames. That's my assumption. I might be wrong about that.
Yeah, if it's a 3-frame window, then I think the expectation is most serious tournament players are going to be able to execute it with a high amount of regularity.
Mm-hmm.
If it's 1 frame, then you'd still see it a lot, but I don't think it would necessarily be the expectation like that. Pretty much every boom you do is going to be frame perfect. Although that can, set up possibly like an off-speed pitch sort of situation for someone throwing them out where you maybe intentionally throw out a slower boom.
Yep.
So that's maybe another layer up on that mix.
Yep. And Steve,
It's not really a mix, but
Steve, that's not all. We even got something else. And this was a complete surprise. If people didn't watch that Capcom TV thing, nobody would know. Unfortunately, we don't have the screenshot for it, but there's battle damage in Street Fighter 5 or Street Fighter 6, sorry. We saw on the build that they were playing with Guile in the Capcom TV show. At the end, they showed Guile with like cuts on his nose, cuts on his on your eyebrows, which is like really easy to get cut if you're a boxer, if you do any kind of fighting or MMA, just because this bone is sharp. So when it hits against your skin, it goes. You had a pretty hefty shiner.
yeah.
Like and you know what? Another throwback to what I think is Street Fighter 2. It looked like, when you lose in Street Fighter 2, right? You have like the bloody version of your character.
I think it's, a little bit of that, but it's mostly what we've seen over the past couple generations of graphics in terms, in consoles and game. And I cannot talk. I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm.
But we haven't really seen, like, the big jump in visual isn't necessarily as apparent as it was going from like PS1 to PS3.
Mm-hmm.
That's a massive jump. PS3 to PS5, still very noticeable, but not necessarily like as night and day. Mm-hmm. So a lot of the graphical improvements you'll see are going to be things like this. Things like, player damage. Things like terrain damage. Things that are going to be easier to, or that weren't necessarily as viable, 5, 6, 7 years ago. Now that's where you're going to see a lot of the improvements.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that and the fact that they're using the RE engine. Like the thing with RE engine is that they're able to morph models in different ways. My camera zoomed out. Will you come back in? Camera, come back in. Camera, come back. All right, it's. I'm just gonna click it. But yeah, the models are able to be morphed, right? So we see that with the way we even saw it when they do cinematic supers, right? Like Luke, like his forearms budge out like Popeye. Ryu's like biceps are crazy. Guile's chest is like huge when he's throwing the big sonic boom. Even like in movement, right? I think it was Maximilian when he was watching, he noticed that like even when Guile is just walking back and forth, like you can see his tricep, like the muscle in his tricep moving up and down, just like in real life. Oh, and Squidly was talking about the Sonic Blade. Gotcha. Yeah, no, he's got the Sonic Blade. That's I think that's awesome. But yeah, there's a lot of really cool stuff that they're doing, and I can't wait to see more. But sadly, with that said, the devs have said that while they were super happy everybody got to see a lot, they're gonna go dark, go back to working in the game, and they'll be back soon. Sad.
Yeah. And that kind of upset some people who were watching the Capcom showcase. Because they thought that, and I know you mentioned this, where you thought they might show something and then disappear after that. Their Street Fighter presentation or Street Fighter 6 at least, was, hey, Street Fighter 6 is here. It will be here later.
Mm-hmm.
The end. And then you move on from Resident Evil, or from Monster Hunter to Resident Evil.
Look, you can't please everybody, right? And at the same time, it's like, look, they had the opportunity to showcase Street Fighter in the big PlayStation State of Play thing instead of their own thing. I would have taken it too, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, them's the breaks for us here in the FGC. But, you know, hopefully they'll be back. Hopefully we'll still get an announcement later on. I think they said late summer, so I'm assuming Evo or something like that. We'll see. We'll see what's happening there. Did we miss anything from the Street Fighter 6 info dumps? Just there was just so much match footage.
The taunts.
Oh yeah, the taunts. So the taunts work a little bit differently, Steve. I don't know if you saw this, but apparently taunts are you hit all 6 buttons, you get a taunt. There's also a forward taunt, which is different than the neutral taunt, and also a down taunt. So you get 3 different taunts. That's cool. I can't wait to see like if Luke's like mocking Hadouken taunt is like different with each character he fights, because that would be pretty badass. And I can't wait to see other characters mock other opponents, because I think that's hilarious. If that's the case, honestly, if that's the case, like I'll do taunts after getting a knockdown. I don't care. It'd be hilarious. Could you imagine? You're in the middle of like
you're giving up game Oki for mental Oki.
Giving up game Oki for style points. Like, could you imagine you're in the middle of like a really intense like fireball zoning war, Luke versus Ryu, and all of a sudden you just go Hadouken, and then you go back to zoning. Like that would piss me off if I was on the wrong end of that. Ah man. But you know, Street Fighter 6 has been very well received, and I think it's been very well done. With that said, Steve, I think that brings us to our block grab. You ready?
Ready.
All right, block grab.
Block grab.
All right, here's how block grab is going to work today. We are going to block grab the themes. Capcom has put out the music for Luke, Chun-Li, and Ryu, as it were. So we're going to listen to the themes, and we're going to block grab. For those of you in chat, we're going to do things a little bit differently. What I'm going to do is I'm going to set up a poll right now. And you will choose whether you block it or you grab it. And then whoever wins will be either blocked or grabbed. So let's start with Ryu's theme. I've started the poll. And I will start Ryu's theme right about now.
So it's a big departure in that it doesn't really... It doesn't invoke the classic Street Fighter 2, motif that you hear. You don't get that. You do get a very, very funky feel, and it feels sort of Third Strike-esque, where I don't necessarily associate it with the character, per se, but more the vibe of the game.
Gotcha.
So
block or grab?
I will grab. This isn't as enthusiastic as a grab, but I will tentatively grab.
So I will grab, and here's why. I saw a lot of responses to the theme. People saying, hey, this doesn't sound like Ryu's theme. I hate it. Blah, 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 blah. Look, Street Fighter 6 is new context, right? Look at the context of the bigger picture before you turn to your small-minded ways. Big picture, new context, new vibe. I think this specific thing, while not a theme, right? Like there's no like melody or hook or anything like that. It's more like a loop. While it's not necessarily like a theme like we're used to, I think it represents Ryu very well. I could totally see like, you know, Ryu just like punching someone right in the face and being all serious to that theme. So I'm a grab as well. And the chat overwhelmingly 100% grabbed as well. Not a single person blocked it. That's impressive. Now, let's move on to the next one, where we go to Chun-Li's theme. Block or grab. Start the poll. The poll has started. Let me pull up the song.
Again, the vibe feels very... This vibe feels more like Chun-Li than the previous one did feel like Ryu. So... But it also sort of reminds me of Dan's theme.
Oh, because I don't want to think the synth?
Yeah. And it feels like there's a few points where it's about to blend into like the bridge of Dan's theme. Another hesitant grab for me.
Hesitant grab. You know what? Yeah, I am more hesitant to grab this than I was Ryu's theme. No, sorry, backwards. I'm more hesitant to grab Ryu's theme than I am to grab this. Because... like you said, I think there's a little bit more personality to it. You can tell, oh, it's Chun-Li. I get it. But again, it's like there's no melody, there's no hook or anything, right? It's just setting up that loop. Which I guess for a fighting game, that's all we need, right?
Yeah, and like with the vibe of the game that we've gotten so far, I don't think you're going to necessarily be missing that.
Yeah, very true. But yeah. So we both grabbed this one a little bit more split, not by 100%, but still overwhelming majority decided to grab. It's funny because like the first bit of that theme reminds me of Valena's theme in Third Strike. Beats in my head. Yeah. Like for whatever reason, I think it's just the fact that there's a voice going, ah, or whatever it's doing. But I'm a fan. You know, I'll turn that on and put it in the background while I work. Why not? All right. Last but not least for our block grab, we got Luke's John. Here we go. Started the poll. Let's take a gander at Luke's team. See, this has a melody.
It has a very nice old school feel. It feels sort of like even though it's not a new, even though it's not an old theme, it feels sort of like the evolution of an old theme. Mm-hmm. It hits in a very nice way. Like it feels like an evolution of like a Third Strike era sort of theme. And it is very fitting. But it's Luke, so I block.
Not many people block Luke, as we've seen in Street Fighter V tournaments.
See, but you sacrifice the ability to block Luke for the ability to say afterwards, you play Luke.
Very true.
Very true. There is no counter to that.
That is very true.
And if you win the next game, you're able to cancel you played Luke, or you play Luke, into EX you need Luke. And that is just an insta-kill.
Oh, boy. Yeah, we didn't even get to talk much about Combo Breaker. There's just too much going on. But anyway, thank you, everybody, for playing Block Grab. With Luke, 100%, everybody's grabbing. I love the funky like vibe, as Steve was saying, right? Like, I'm a big fan. It's got some stank, as it were. I think this whole game's got some stank. It's pretty badass.
Hopefully it has the good type of stank once it launches.
Yeah, hopefully it's not tournament stank. Yeah.
Not the bad type of stank that we've gotten.
Man. I think that's it for Street Fighter 6. Do you have any final thoughts before we depart?
Let's depart and head right into Guilty Gear Strivedom.
Well, before we do that, Steve, I do want to say one thing before we part from... Well, after we've parted from Street Fighter 6, but before we arrive at Guilty Gear. Just want to remind everybody, if you're over here and you're hanging out and you haven't already, feel free to hit that follow button, will you? You get to know when we're live, and we're here every Thursday at 8 p.m. Central. If you're on YouTube watching this, feel free to hit that subscribe button, right? We're trying to get to 1,000 subscribers so we can get all the fancy monetization and other tools that you can get after you hit 1,000 subscribers. And last but not least, if you got Amazon Prime, you know you can use it here on Twitch for one free subscription. Might as well use it now, because if you didn't know you had it and you're not using it here, you're gonna forget about it. So you might as well put it to good use. We'll put it to good use. Thanks. That's it. Enough with the shenanigans. Steve, you ready for Guilty Gear?
I am as ready as I'll ever be.
The reception from Guilty Gear has been lukewarm. Lukewarm, Steve. Happy Chaos got nerfed, right? So you can't do full screen stuff, but he now has ways of like keeping you in a block string for hours and hours on end. Giovanna is eating good. She can, if she has 50% meter, all of her normals chip and you can kill. If she has 100% meter, all of her normals chip harder and she can kill faster. Everybody's up in arms about that. It's been an interesting change, right? Because I think I equated it to like the crazy Dragon Ball Z changes, right? Like you remember when Dragon Ball Z went from the game we knew to like a completely wacky new game with a lot of crazy shenanigans. That's where it's at. This massive balance patch it's brought out a lot of weird bugs and a lot of weird things that people haven't, I guess people didn't QA, right? So I'm curious to see how people keep going with it. It's been interesting so far. Yeah. It's interesting.
So you said, you talked about a couple of their characters last week. Is there anyone that you thought was hurt but actually got helped by this patch, or vice versa?
No, I think. Let me think. I don't know if anybody was necessarily hurt. Like I think everybody was worried about May, right? Because they were changing her dolphin, but she's still, she could still dolphin you to death. Faust got a big help. He plays a lot better according to people who are playing Faust. Axel got some fun stuff. Kai is a real character now. His install actually does stuff. Soul, I think people thought it was going to be a big change, but he's still perfectly fine and as annoying to fight as ever. But yeah, it's interesting because you really thought there was going to be a big change with a couple of these characters, but they've stayed relatively... While they are slightly different, like they don't play like they did before, but they still play very well, regardless. So it's like a bit of an adjustment, if you will. Not necessarily like a big change. Does that make sense?
It does. You're saying it basically feels like a lateral move in some cases.
Yeah, I think this is one of those things where maybe it needs more time to simmer, right? Because I think people aren't quite used to how things are now, or like not that they're not quite used to how things are now, but I think people haven't found like the fun, how to get into the fun stuff or how to like utilize their new characters. It's only been a week, I think, because it came out last Thursday, if I'm not mistaken. So, yeah, I think we'll have to check back in sometime in the near future. Maybe like give it a month to see where people stay. What does worry me is that there's a lot of really bizarre interactions that don't feel like they're intended. There's a lot of really weird bugs. There's a lot of really weird things. There's a big exploit. I forgot about this. There's a huge exploit.
The name exploit.
Yeah, it's been wreaking havoc in online tournaments to the point where some of these tournaments have been canceled. Some of these tournaments have resorted to hiding player names. Some of these tournaments have resorted to just running sets offline and then showing them later. That's bad. And all it is like you can go into someone's R code. I'm not entirely sure what it is because I haven't tried to do it. You can go into someone's R code, you can change their name, and when you change their name, it crashes it. It completely crashes their game. So they have to log back in, and as you know, Guilty Gear Strive needs to go to some couples therapy because it's not very good at communicating with its server, so it takes forever for the server to get back on. It's bad. It's real bad. And it's specifically bad for people who do online tournaments or who do online content. Because, people are jerks and they kind of ruin the fun for everybody. So I hope something is done about that soon.
It seems weird. Like a year ago at this time, it felt like Guilty Gear Strive had all the momentum in the world, and Capcom was not necessarily spinning its wheels, but it was on the back foot. These last couple weeks, it feels like that's flipped on its head.
Yeah, well, I mean, at the end of the day, you can play Guilty Gear now. You can't play Street Fighter 6 now.
That's true.
But yeah, no, I know what you mean. It does feel like it's a big momentum change. And like everybody at Bandai Namco has been super quiet, so who knows what's going on over there.
That's one of those things where you don't really want to say something. Like, I'm thinking like if they come out and say something, they may draw attention to the exploit.
Mm-hmm.
And it's possible that they don't want to say anything until they know they have a fix or they know they have something coming down the pipe for that.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing, too, is Arc System Works, as far as their games, they approach patching and things like that very differently from other developers, right? Arc System Works tends to have a set it and forget it type of thing, right? Where they send out a patch and they're like, here you go. Even if there's some really wacky stuff, like you all remember Revelator 2, where Johnny essentially had an infinite with Mistfinder. I was there forever until they did a big update for it. So I'm hoping that... I don't think they will let this exploit fly. I think they're working on it. At least they have to be, right? Because if they're not, then that's going to go bad. But as far as like the actual balance changes, even with all the wacky shenanigans, I think they're going to let it fly for at least a little bit. before they get in there and try to fix some stuff or change some stuff. But yeah, them's the Guilty Gear Strive updates. I got myself back to the Celestial floor after a couple weeks of trying.
Congratulations on that.
It's weird because the Celestial floor, for those of you that don't know, in Guilty Gear, when you go into the lobbies, there's 10 floors, right? 1 through 10. Once you're in the 10th floor and you win enough, you get put into the Celestial floor, which is like a secret floor. And to get in there, you have to win 5 matches, and you can only lose 1. Like, you have to win 5 games. You can only, if you lose 2, you're kicked out and you have to start over. It's a pain in the ass. And that causes like a really interesting like skill gap, right? Because if you go to floor 10, you're gonna run into a lot of people who are there just having fun. They're like, I'm in floor 10, yeah. When you get to the Celestial floor, that's the sweaty room, right? Like, so it's such a huge skill difference. So like you go to the 10th floor, you like play around, you like beat up on people, and then you get back to the Celestial floor, and it's like, oh, right, you gotta take it seriously. But at the end, it doesn't matter because I made it out of pools and Combo Breaker for Guilty Gear Strive. Tied for 129th out of 1,000 people. I wanted to say that on the show.
Congratulations.
I feel really bad. Look, I got to shout this guy out. Money Honey is a guy from the Midwest. We were playing. He was my first opponent. We played. He beat me 2-0. Like, convincingly. Like, I wasn't paying attention. He beat my ass. Then he went to go report his score to the pool runner, and the pool runner goes, oh, it's 1st to 3. I didn't know that. He didn't know that. I brought it back somehow, and I feel real bad about it. But it feels like he took it better than I did. Yeah, that was like an eye-opening thing about reading the rules for both of us. So I feel real bad, and after he went to losers, he played the person I had to beat to get out of the pool and loser side. So, yeah. Money Honey, wherever you are, I salute you. And it's cool. Like, one of the cool things that like really reminded me about how cool the FGC was, I saw him the next day when I was in my Street Fighter pool, and he got hype with me when I told him I made it out of pools. Like, he was super happy. I was like, you're happier than I am.
Oh, man.
Man.
I am a jovial guy. I could not be that guy. I could not. I would just have to be like, good for you.
Yeah.
I'm going to go this way and yell at a wall for like 30 seconds.
Yeah, that was unfortunate, man. I don't think I'll ever stop thinking about that. Like, he took it way better than I did. I was so pissed. But anyway, big shout outs to Money Honey over there from the Midwest. Wherever you are, may our paths cross again. Now, Steve. Time to get to the real fun stuff over here.
Take me down to the Rumbleverse city.
Where the grass is green and the DDTs are shitty. Now, Steve, Rumbleverse had its beta, its network test over the weekend. I played way too much of it. I looked back at the timeline for the stream. I was here for 9 hours on Saturday. From the launch until my body could not take sitting on this ergonomic chair anymore, Steve. 9 hours. 9.5-ish. Actually, I think it was 8.5. Closer to 9. Anywho, I played a ton of it. I only ran into one person who, like, really, like, made me feel like I didn't know what I was doing and, like, really, like, pushed my poo in, if you will. And that was Katana Prime. So shout outs to Katana Prime for absolutely destroying me in Rumbleverse. Like, I literally, like, after I lost, I was just like, I can't even be mad. It was that crazy. I apparently beat up on Tuboware. So shout outs to Tuboware. The world's best Rumbleverse player. Anyway, Rumbleverse has been crazy. I cannot wait for that game to come out. Thank you, Blue, for the resubscription. He said, shout-outs to Ilan for beating Turbo. Who's Turbo?
Probably meant Tubbo.
Yeah. Thank you for the 44 months, Blue. Appreciate you. Steve, I saved the clip for you. Because you're a wrestling person more so than I am. So I figured this game would be right up your alley. And that mean scene has resubscribed for 18 months. Thank you for the big resubs, everybody. Much love to all the y'alls. Mean scene for the 18 months. Blue for the 44. Steve for the 53. Thank you, guys. Appreciate y'all. Steve, one of the things about this game is you're basically a stonky superhero. Like you're a very dense, muscular superhero running around. And you can jump off of buildings and like do suplexes off of sky rises or skyscrapers. You can do elbow drops from the clouds. This game's wacky. Check this out. I specifically saved a clip because I accidentally found a really cool setup for insta-kills. Check this out.
Okay.
Get out of here. Kick them down. Now watch this. He's getting revived down there. Timed it perfectly. Oh, that was so sick.
Wow.
Oh, that's a Twitter clip right there. And it was a Twitter clip, Steve.
That was wow. Can you pull that up again?
Before I do, I want to just walk you through it. I kicked the man off of a building, and he got downed, and he stood up because he had super meter, right? So it's like TJ combo and Killer Instinct. As soon as he got back up, I elbow dropped him from the top of a roof, and I timed it perfectly so that they immediately like died for realsies. Or I'm sorry, got knocked out. Look at it. Dodge the grab. Hit him with the big soccer kick. The Cosmo shot, if you will. And then elbow drop.
Oh, wow.
Now, Steve.
Okay, I kind of wish I was able to play that game now.
You can in July. July is their next network test. And it's crossplay, so you can play it on Xbox, PlayStation, or Steam. Or I'm sorry, not Steam. The Epic Game Store. Speaking of Epic Game Store, if you buy anything on the Epic Game Store, including Rumbleverse, by the way, Rumbleverse is in the supporter creator program, along with Samurai Showdown. Use our code Best of V Show at the Epic Game Store. Somebody used our code for a game called Pathless, I think. Something like that. Somebody used our code. So thank you, whoever you are out there playing Pathless. I think it was Pathless. We appreciate you. Thank you. But Steve, Rumbleverse, it's super fun. They added new stuff. There's new strings in the game, right? The way this game works is you get a strike, a throw, a block, and a dodge. That's it. And all four of them, it's like a four-way rock, paper, scissors. With the strikes, you get the combo. You get 3 regular strikes, right, which does some damage and knocks the person down at the end. You get to switch it up if you hit them once and then you hit the grab button. You'll do a spin kick that wall splats, which then allows you to keep comboing, right? And if you do punch, throw, you basically just pick them up and throw them behind you. It's great for getting people off of your building. So you can just throw them off of your building. You just literally like punch, and then you just pick them up and just go, whoop. It's hilarious. The way you learn this is a battle royale, right? 40 people running around this city, just like destroying everything, being crazy maniacs. The way you get your weapons, which are special moves, is you find wrestling magazines and you read them and you become inspired. The way you work on your build is you find protein powders that are specific for stats. Like there's a health protein powder, which I think is the core. There's a stamina protein powder, which I think is the legs, and there's a damage protein powder, which is the arms. There's also the EBGBs, subscribing with Twitch Prime, not letting it go to waste. Thank you for 2 months. Big Twitch Prime right there. Thank you, EBGBs. Appreciate you. Something else that I don't know if this was in the game for the last beta or not, but now there are perks, and completely random. Keats was nice enough to stop by the stream over the weekend, and he explained this. When you do a specific amount of damage, you earn a perk. Completely random perk. And then you do another specific amount of damage, and you keep earning perks. Right? So, like, it's completely improvised. Like, you get whatever you get. And there's stuff like when you stand still, you regain your health. When you drink protein powder, you regain your health. There's stuff like whenever you do a drop kick, you get an automatic follow-up. There's stuff like when you finish a 3-hit combo, your last hit is explosive. It's crazy. And the fact that it's so varied, like, it makes the game feel completely different every time. It's unbelievable. And Blue is asking, didn't someone in the FGC do a power build with the spear? I did. I wound up getting 10 arm protein powders. And anytime I would spear someone once, it would do, like, 3/4 of their health. It was wild. I wound up winning that round, too. I got a total of 21 wins over the weekend, Steve.
Nice. I thought you were going to stop at 20.
I got one more. Steve. Unfortunately, my last game was kind of a flub, and I'm still pissed off about it. I lost when I shouldn't have. And then... and Blue, a lot of people, there's a lot of clips out there with people doing like 10 arm damage powders. But yeah, at the end of the day, look, this game is unbelievably awesome. And it's made by Lord Keats and the Iron Galaxy gang over there in either Chicago or Orlando. So show them some love. The game is on the Epic Game Store. I don't think it's purchasable yet. I don't think it will be purchasable. I think it might be free. I'm not 100% sure about that. But if you do go look at it and you decide to download it, you can use our code BestofVShow on the Epic Game Store. Hashtag Epic Partner. We have to say that. But yeah. Rumbleverse was amazing, man. I already feel the withdrawal, and July can't get here soon enough so I can play it again. Sad time, Steve.
It'll be here before you know it.
Yep. Oh, and because we got 20 wins, next show, I will be buying us both pizza. So you get pizza without even doing anything. Congratulations. I'll send you $20 for pizza. Probably on Friday when I get paid.
That's okay.
But yeah. Oh, Multiverse is in July too? Interesting. Yeah, there was that Multiverse beta too.
Yeah,
Multiverse
that just
beta was
wrapped
fun.
up as well.
Yeah, I think it wrapped up last week, right?
Yeah, I was not in it, unfortunately.
Dude, my Harley Quinn's pretty good. Gonna beat up on some people with Harley Quinn. There's something really weird about Harley Quinn beating up Jake from Adventure Time or Bugs Bunny. It's very interesting. But anywho, Rumbleverse, great game. Can't wait for July. Go follow them at Rumbleverse on Twitter. They also have a Discord and all this other stuff. I just noticed the screen flicker on my end. I hope that's not something terrible happening. Let me know if that affected you guys at all in the chat, please. I think that's all I have to say on Rumbleverse. Steve, do you have any thoughts? Now seeing what you saw, do you think you're going to want to try the game?
I'm in that weird point where, yes, I would like to try it if I knew I would be able to get any sort of serious time with it. Mm-hmm. But I am running out of time to get serious time with it.
Yeah. Look, there's a test in July. I think that hopefully they'll have the tag team mode. There's a 2v2 or like there's a 2-person team mode coming. And they call it tag team mode. I can't wait to try that. There's like some crazy... One last thing I want to say about Rumbleverse. In this game, and I think it's something that Iron Galaxy has done so well, with Killer Instinct and with most of the games that they've worked on is if you think, hey, would this work? 9 out of 10 times it do. Right? Like, I think I saw it on Tuboware's stream. Apparently, there's a move called the dolphin dive where you, like, dive at someone and it pops them into the air. If you get the purple version of it, the epic version, you can jump cancel, and then you can, like, hit them with something else in the air. And you can, like, what I started doing was you get a dolphin dive, it pops them in the air, then you get a spear tackle, so you just, like, go flying. It does a lot of damage. It's wild. It's wild. And the fact that you have the freedom of thinking, hey, can I do this? And then you try it and it works. I can't wait to see how that works with 2v2 or 2-player stuff. Right? Like where like one person pops somebody up and then the other person like starts beating the crap out of them and then you come back and start beating the crap out of them again. I can't wait. I can't wait. This game is unbelievable.
If you can't wait for July, there is something you can grab in June.
What's that, Steve?
DNF Duel.
That's right.
That is set to launch on June 28th. And over the last couple weeks, we've seen official announcements for a few more characters. It will launch with 16. We are up to 15 officially confirmed now with the additions of these characters right here.
I don't think I saw this one. Who's this guy? Oh. Oh.
Swift Master.
He's like Fujin. Oh wait, did he put down an orb? Or are they like you put down an orb and activate it? Open stuff? That's scary. I still haven't played this game. I really want to.
Should. It was I really enjoyed the beta.
Who's the other
Let's
character?
check out this.
Did he just pull that out of a guitar case? Now, I have seen this one. And I feel like every character has something to do with, like, opening. See, look at that. He's got, like, bombs placed on the ground.
Nice rings.
Have a good time, Steve.
You can't tell me what to do.
Max part 2. It really does look like Max part 2. Alright. We got 2 more. Okay. That's a flamethrower, not a flame launcher. Railgun? Oh, she's just got a cannon. That's fine. Missile? Okay, that's ridiculous.
If you can fire it,
She's got it.
she's got it.
Wow. And the final one. I haven't seen this one either. Oh, is this another...
This is the newest Enchantress.
Oh, is that Teddy? It's not Teddy.
But we're seeing a couple interesting new mechanics, or at least new to the game, with these last couple characters. So it'll be very interesting to see how they play out in DNF Duel, a game that isn't necessarily as execution heavy as some of the other ones out there.
Yeah, I'm interested to try it. I think the only time I'm going to be able to try it is after it launches, so we'll see what happens there. And when does it come out, Steve?
The end of June. So
Okay.
June 29th, if I remember correctly. Oh, June 28th. I was off by 24 hours.
Okay. Man, and also like the Fighters collection is coming out on the 24th. I'm gonna try to get into that as well. June's tough.
It's gonna be a busy week.
Speaking of busy weeks, Steve, I think we got some numbers to talk about. Before
We
say
got
goodnight.
a few numbers to talk about from the last couple of weeks.
Where do you want to start?
Let's talk about the numbers for CEO, because that is going down in a week and a half. And we got a look at the final registration numbers for that event. Leading the way, obviously, is Smash Ultimate, 650 entrants, 560 for Strive. And then you've got a big sort of dip. Tekken with slightly under 300. King of Fighters and Street Fighter both around 230. Melee as well. DBFZ are right around 200. Everything else under 100. A bit smaller than some might expect. CEO registration is down. Like, there are fewer entrants here than there were in 2021. However, you have to keep in mind that CEO 2021 took place in December. So there's only a 6-month gap between then and this, whereas other tournaments, there's a year gap, or at least close to a year. But that just sort of brings up the idea that on top of these rising costs, and to connect it to the interview we did last week with Javi from Texas Showdown, in addition to the rising costs, you've got the possibility of fewer entrants, because you've got a lot more people struggling now financially than there were a few years ago.
Mm-hmm.
There are a lot more people struggling financially now than there were even 1 or 2 years ago. So it's going to be very difficult, at least in the short term, for some of these tournaments. CEO is still going to be massive tournament. It's just going to have to navigate things a little differently than it might have in 2019.
Yeah. Not to mention that, at least in Austin, as far as I know, Austin has gone up a level for CDC recommendations. Again, obviously Texas might be like a bit of an outsider because of, most of the population over here is who they are.
I do think there is a bit of fatigue when it comes to that. We're not necessarily, as a society, looking at that as closely as we were maybe in 2020, 2021. And whether or not we should is a discussion that I don't want to get into right now. But there's that. But on top of that, there are still people who don't feel comfortable going to packed tournaments. And it's going to be a while before you see those people return to tournaments, if they ever do. So that's another thing that's going to be difficult to navigate for TOs.
Yeah. Yeah. The times, they are changing. And, I'm really happy we did get to have that interview with Javi, just because I think the discourse around TOs and how they're handling stuff was going the wrong way on Twitter.
I would love to have sort of a big panel discussion, like top 20 TOs, bring in some Smash TOs, and just have an exchange of ideas, an exchange of thoughts for like 90 minutes. I think that would be pretty darn cool.
Okay, I'll start reaching out. We'll see what we can do. We're probably not going to get 20, but we're not going to probably get 10. But I can probably do about like 6. We'll see.
We can get 1.
I can get up to 6 people.
We'll just have Jabali talk for 90 minutes.
I would love to have Jabali on the show. I'm a big fan of Jabali.
He's been on a couple times. He is a friend of the show.
Yeah, I thought it was really funny when we were setting up, or when we were getting ready to set up for our show at Combo Breaker. He ran by as I was handing you something, and he's like, "What is this, a back alley deal?" He's a cool guy. I'm a fan of Jabali.
There were a couple other rankings for entrants that we got. let's look at Evo. This one's a little older. This one came out just under a week ago at the close of regular registration. Late registration is still open for Evo 2022 if you wanted to go. Also, if you were thinking of registering to volunteer for Vortex Gallery or run a side tournament with Vortex Gallery, registration for that closes tomorrow. So if you're on the fence, make that jump.
Wait, registration to participate or volunteer?
No, to volunteer.
Okay.
So if you're thinking of running a game.
Because they announced the TMNT Cross Justice League tournament. I'm going to go over there because the people that I ran into at Combo Breaker for that game were pretty cool. But anyway, back to the task at hand. I'll gush about Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Cross Justice League at another time.
So, as we were saying, Evo released their leaderboard for their 9 games at the end of regular registration. No changes from the end of early registration. So Strive on top, followed by Street Fighter, KOF, Tekken, Grand Blue, DBFZ, Melty, MK, and Skullgirls. Just, it's as you were from earlier. Rick Thayer, the GM of Evo, did tweet out a few comments about the standings. Said that Guilty Gear Strive had a, quote, commanding lead. So it does look like that is the game that will close out Evo Sunday, since, if you'll remember, the order of finals is going to be determined solely by entrants this year. Tekken and KOF are, quote, very close. So that battle those two could switch places. And Skullgirls, even though it is last in terms of Evo, it is going to be the largest ever offline Skullgirls bracket in history.
Wow.
So, and that's something that's that I always want to keep in perspective. A small Evo tournament is still pretty damn big.
Mm-hmm.
So even if you don't have like 2,500 people showing up, 400 or 500 people for Skullgirls is going to be nuts.
Yeah,
that's great for that game. And then earlier today we got an update on registration for East Coast Throwdown. And my goodness, there are a couple of surprises there. This is not the end of early registration. Early registration ends tomorrow. And they did say that early registration here for ECT is up about 80% compared to the same point of 2019, which is great to see. But looking at that top 10, couple games surprising me. Vampire Savior making 7th. Battle for the Grid in 8th. You've got your typical heavy hitters: KOF, Street Fighter, Tekken, DNF Duel, the big one in number 3, or one of the newer games in number 3. Obviously, Guilty Gear Strive at number 1. But number 2 on that list, Guilty Gear Xrd, Rev 2. Rev freaking 2 is in second place over Street Fighter, over KOF, over Tekken, over everything besides Strive.
Over DNF Duel, the new one.
Over DNF Duel. The Xrd community is turning up. And I am so glad when games have an opportunity to shine in environments they don't necessarily get to often. So I love seeing like Big E's events host DOA. Because for the DOA community, those events are a big deal. So they turn up. You know, the Xrd community is turning up here. And I'm excited to see what they do.
For sure. No, that's hella surprising. People really do like their Xrd. or the Rev 2. Steve, any final thoughts? Because I do believe we have reached the hour.
We have it's time to tap out, so yeah. That was not a great ending. I apologize. I was going to sing it back to you, but I'm just not at the top of my game. I'm not sage jamming it tonight.
It's okay. We can't be the best version of ourselves every day, Steve. That's a lesson I have learned. With all that said, Die by Sword just got here, so I guess it is time to end the show. Kidding. Good to see you, Die by Sword.
He's bringing out the hook from Showtime at the Apollo.
Nice.
Sandman right. Die.
Well, that is the end of our show for this week. I have been Ilan. This has been Steve. We'll be back on here next week. Same bad time, same bad channel. And I believe that is all I have left to say. Steve, say the thing. Let's get out of here.
Good night, Canada.